This week is the 60th anniversary of Martin Luther King's speech, Religious Witness for Human Dignity. The speech took place in Tempe and around 8,000 people were in attendance. Audio of his speech was found by accident at a local thrift store. Before speaking in Tempe, Dr. King spoke at the Tanner AME Church in Phoenix.
I can assure you that it is a privilege to be in the city of Phoenix and the state of Arizona. I have longed to come here for a long time, and I have received numerous invitations, and always some scheduling problem made it impossible. And I'm so happy that we could arrange our schedules to be here on this occasion and at this time.
For more on this, we're joined by Pastor Warren Stewart from First Institutional Baptist Church in Phoenix, who was one of the leaders in bringing about a statewide MLK holiday. Reverend Warren Stewart Sr., thank you for being here with us on Arizona
It's a
Horizon.
pleasure, Steve, to be with you again.
So let's go back to 1964, Tempe, Arizona.
Right.
Dr. Martin Luther King. How significant was it that Dr. King would have come here, considering how busy he was in the rest of the country?
Well, that was amazing because Arizona probably at that time only had 2.5% to 3% of African Americans, and for him to leave the battlefield of the South and back east to come here to speak at ASU was amazing in itself, but I think it was also significant on behalf of the ASU president, as well as the pastors and local civil rights leaders who urged King to come.
So if we think back to that time period, that was June of 1964, July of 1964, the amazing civil rights legislation was passed. How much did Dr. King have to say about that when he was in Tempe, and how much did his push for that really make a difference?
Well, we have to remember that when he was here, there was legalized discrimination in these United States of America. We did not live out what the Pledge of Allegiance says, liberty and justice for all. And so, as you mentioned, Lyndon Johnson was able to push through the Civil Rights Bill of 1964 that changed this nation for the better.
Well, and so I keep coming back to this because I know Dr. King, to certain aspects of the population, was a controversial figure. But if we look back historically, what he was doing was intended to benefit every person in this country, right? It wasn't about black people or brown people or whatever it may be.
He was trying to get this nation to live out the principles in its Constitution, and which it had not done since its inception. And so he was just doing what he did. I have said this consistently. What George Washington was to the 18th century, Abraham Lincoln was to the 19th century, Martin King was to this nation in the 20th century, to practice what you preach.
Obviously, I want to ask you about some of the things that you took care of in Arizona and helped the controversy behind getting the holiday for Dr. King. But before that, we mentioned in the introduction that the tape of this speech was found at a local thrift store. Just how strange is that?
Well, as a person of faith, I think God had something to do with it. I must say that. But yes, the very fact that no one remembered this speech and it was found in a Goodwill store where it could easily have been discarded. I mean, reel to reels 9 years ago. The hand of God.
Well, and reel to reels in a place where it gets to be over 100 degrees and dry in the summer.
Right.
And
you have a speech by the greatest prophet of the 20th century.
All right, so let's
talk.
In
Arizona.
In Arizona, exactly. So speaking of Arizona, you were such an important leader when it came to actually getting a holiday to honor Dr. King here. I know we only have a couple of minutes, but take me back to Evan Meacham's time as governor, when he rescinded the executive order that then Governor Bruce Babbitt had. You probably weren't stunned based on what Governor Meacham, when he was candidate Meacham, had to say. But when he did rescind the executive order, can you take me back all those years, what your reaction was?
Yes, it shocked the state, the nation, and the world because it was a federal holiday, and yet this man, the governor of Arizona, said that Dr. King was not worthy of a holiday. And so the fight was on, and we battled for 6.5 years, and we became, rather than the laughingstock of the nation in 1987, we became a leader of the nation by the only state to pass the King holiday legislation by a vote of the people, overwhelmingly in 1992.
But as you said, 6.5 years of fighting over this. Evan Meacham was only in office for 1 year. So give us some background on what took so long.
We had to educate Arizona voters and the Arizona population that the King holiday was not a black holiday. It was an American holiday that represents what America could be at its best. So we had to move people. In 1987, 70% of Arizonans were against the King holiday. By the time we won in 1992, 70% supported it. We moved them 100% in our direction by education.
Did you feel the direction moving that way as you were going, or did you have some nights where you're just like, I don't know if this is going to work?
Well, it didn't.
Well,
it didn't work. The legislation was passed twice in the state legislature and overturned by referendum. It was 2 ballots in 1990 were on the general election. Both of those were defeated. So we had 2 more years to get it done, and thank God we got it done.
So should Arizonans take real pride in being the first state to actually have a voter-approved holiday for Dr. King?
You better, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We proved that the majority of Arizonans support what Dr. King stood for.
I hate to ask you this big question. We've got about 30, 45 seconds left. How significant does Dr. King remain to this day to America when we see things related to George Floyd not that long ago?
Dr. King is still the moral, global compass for justice and equality all over the world, including the nation, and Arizona.
Okay. Pastor Stewart, great to see you again. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Bless you.